Good morning, everyone. Welcome to OSA Friday for Females. I'm here with the lovely Phebe Wescott from Randolph-Macon College, formerly Randolph-Macon Women's College. And we will be talking about a lot of fun things today. You can put in your comments, but we will answer them after we are finished with our interview today. So Phebe, thank you for coming this morning.
It is great to be with you, Terica.
Yeah, it's great to have those memories back. Yeah.
So fun.
I'm going to start off again. I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. Please tell us what you do now with RC and how you got into that position.
Well, I first have to say that you are an old friend. As young as you are, you're still an old friend to me. And it's really great to have this time with you.
Oh, thank you.
I've known Terica since, early 2000s.
And, a proud even.
Yes, two proud evens.
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
The class of 78, and I graduated in 78 and moved to Richmond, never thinking I'd return to Lynchburg, Virginia to live. But actually, my husband's work brought us back in 92. Wow. And I went to work at the college in 94. So wow. I've been at the college a very long time.
Yeah.
And it was a part-time situation at first, but Muriel Casey hired me back in the day. Some folks who may be listening remember her well. And she is still alive and very well, and a good friend. But so she hired me back in the day, and it was a part-time position working with alumni and admission. And then I did some development work down the line, and then, but definitely always working with alumni and alumni. And then when the director left, probably close to 5 years ago, it was recommended that I apply for the job. And I hadn't, to be honest, I have had a fabulous career. I didn't know whether it was going to be a career for me or not, but it's just gone very smoothly and transitioned very naturally because I knew so many alums. It's a good fit for me.
Yeah.
I know all decades and young alums, older alums, and everyone in between. So that's really how it happened. It just kind of evolved, and I'm so glad it did.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I think for people who like to just jump, from one job to another, not really settling in, can appreciate that, knowing like, hey, like if you work in one area and you just consistently stay there, like you can feel the success eventually. Like it's not supposed to be immediate, like our phones, we just immediate satisfaction, but that's not necessarily how life is. So
no, very true.
And that's great that, that's what that story basically comes out and tells me. And I think you knew a lot of a lot of students, because like that's how we met, was like, you're when you were in the office, not in the alumni, but at the school, and you were doing different things, and that's how we met, was your interaction with just students, and then we just stayed in touch, and it was always fun, and it still is.
Yeah.
So
thanks. I totally agree.
Yeah. Well, that leads up to my next question. What about RC, RMWC do you love, and what keeps you there?
Well, it sounds trite because I hear it so often, but it's so true. It's the sense of community and the small college community, caring community. And it's a very respectful culture there.
Yeah.
The culture of the college has a family feel, and so mutual respect and caring for one another. I think most people, I mean, you almost know everyone, at least by face, and frequently by name, and that's important and special to me.
Yeah, I mean, you look at most colleges and you're just a number, but at that school, you're definitely not. Like, professors know you, other students know you. You all know each other. It's a small knit family. Yeah, that's definitely
it really
true.
is.
Yeah. What you develop an environment that's always warm. I mean, whenever I talk to your staff or other alumni, it always seems like it's warm, it's welcoming, and it's fun. What's your secret about it?
Well, I would say a positive attitude and positive energy, and lead by example. So I think we all enjoy coming to work. We all enjoy working together. And growing up, I was on many teams. I played a lot of sports, and that teamwork has carried me through. I've always been a part of a team, whether it's an athletic team or an office team. That team player is important, so that we depend on each other. And again, we mutually respect each other. I am passionate about alumni relations, and I like to share that passion. And I think I've been fortunate enough to work with people who have that passion. So we just have a really good time together.
Yeah. And I think when you have the passion and the drive, that it creates a domino effect downwards. So if everyone senses that, that's awesome. Well, and you also said that you lead by example, which is great. I mean, you can't expect somebody to do what you're requesting if you aren't willing or aren't able to do it yourself. So
that's very true.
That's been a theme with everyone I've spoken with. Like, you lead by example. My follow-up question to that is, like, now with COVID, since everything's more like telework basis and virtual, how do you feel like people are handling that now? Do you think it's still a positive atmosphere, or has it been a little bit more difficult to adapt?
Well, and it has been difficult, but I think we've been really creative in how we've working with one. And we have right now, I used to have a staff, there were 6 of us, and now we're down to 3.
Oh, wow.
So we check in regularly with one another, and we do a Zoom kind of, StreamYard, whatever, so that we can see each other and be together, even though we are all working from home, obviously. So I think, again, the importance of connecting is still there, and communicating. So it is different, but it's definitely been rewarding. I'm shocked, but it's worked out very well. And the president of our college, President Bateman, again, led by example, and really felt strongly that we should be, that we should be home, and that he trusted that we would get our jobs done and do them well. And so we have continued with our relationships, both as colleagues and also with the alums, through this kind of a Zoom interaction.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Let's see. Well, you not only manage people who work for you, but also alumni and alumni. So how do you ensure that you're able to connect everyone and still have fun, and that events are being held with the dynamics now and also in the past? Like, how do you just make sure that everyone is collective and ensures the fun atmosphere?
Well, with my job, I'm alumni and alumni relations. Relationships are key. And that's true with really just about anybody's job. The relationships you build, whether it's with your colleagues or with your constituents. So we have had to plan events. It's still very important that the alums feel connected to one another as well as to the college. And we've found that the classes like 2004, for instance, might be interested in having a class chat. And we've done a lot of those, and we have an account where they can set it up for themselves, and so they stay connected. And being with the alums, whether it's a Zoom call or on the road, is the highlight of my job. Because that's where I get my energy is through the alums. And they have been so appreciative of the different programs that we've been offering virtually.
Yeah. No, the leadership one was really smooth and
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I was saying that the leadership one, given everything, was awesome,
Yeah.
you know, and it was just great. It was lots of fun and it ran pretty smoothly, so it was good.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah,
Lots of work and prep behind.
Yeah.
It's just a whole different,
a lot of people
atmosphere.
don't know, like before every event, there's so much that goes behind it. Everyone's like, okay, here's this event, and they have their litany of complaints, but they don't know, like, okay, look at everything that was done prior to make sure like it did run as smooth as it did. So for those watching, you have to know, like, events are not easy. There's always mistakes that happen. There's always glitches, and you just kind of have to be flexible with it.
Go with the flow.
Exactly. If anything about 2020, it's about adapting and going with the flow.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
Well, you are a supervisor, so any advice or tips on how you can manage staff?
I think it probably goes back to teamwork. The fact that we are a team, and you touched on it, Tarek, and I really believe this, that I wouldn't ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. We roll up our sleeves and get the job done, and we stay until it's finished. And with big events, that those are long, very long hours, but we're in it together, and we know we're in it together, and they know they can count on me. I know I can count on them, and that is so important. And I'm so grateful for that. I think again, it goes back to the mutual respect. Communication is key. And then after the event, or even during the process and the planning, it's so important to appreciate and to thank those who are doing a good job.
That's so
they know.
No, I mean, because that extra little step, it shows that you recognize them and that you cared, and that can go a long way in the future. Like, even if it's not like necessarily an immediate, like, okay, let me help you now, but in the end, like, if you were to go back to that person, they might say, like, yeah, I remember, Phebe Wescott, she cares. So what advice and pointers do you have for hosting and implementing big events?
When I think of big events, we have events of all sizes. The big kahuna is reunion. It's a 4-day huge mega event. So that happens in early. Now it's early June, and hundreds of people are on campus, and we have dozens of events going on. So we start, I think planning, lots and lots of planning, and not last minute planning. This is planning that starts months and months in advance. And so that and then I delegate, so that people have ownership in what they are responsible for. I think that's really important, so that they can see the whatever that particular part of the event is that they own. They can see it through. They can see it from its inception all the way through to the reunion itself. So I think delegating is important, and then afterwards celebrating. And again appreciating. You can't, especially I work with a lot of volunteers as well as colleagues, and you can't thank. Hold on one second. It says you've been signed out.
No, we're good.
Okay. You can't thank volunteers especially enough, because they are so generous with their time and their talents. I mean, we couldn't do a reunion without a herd of volunteers who come and dedicate their time and stay in a dorm and are up early and go to bed late. And so I think it's really important to appreciate, and it's so easy to appreciate them because they're wonderful, just wonderful. So I think when you're dealing with events, I think if it's a large one, count on, and even like we have chapter events around the country, and we count on our volunteers to help us with those as well. So we couldn't do them without volunteers. But I think the most important thing is planning and go through it, walk through it and be sure you've covered all your bases before the day. Because things happen, as we all know. You have plans and then life happens, and 2020 is a perfect example for that. How many plans in 2020 have been canceled?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, what I liked about that is how you delegate, because I think a lot of times, sometimes if you feel like, okay, I have to do it myself, because you want to ensure that everything is okay. And, sometimes in your own mind, the best way to do it, but you also have to give other people the opportunity to evolve and grow and feel part of the team in that way. And so I think that's a great, that's a great supervisor kind of mentality, and it's a great way to also think of event planning, because you can't do it at all, especially with reunion. Like, there's just too many components to it, and so you do need help. And obviously, as the delegator, you can always say, okay, this needs to be fine-tuned, but you have to be willing to step back and say, you take it on, and trust people to excel in their own strengths.
Yeah. And that can be difficult sometimes. To let go can be difficult.
Yeah. And I know so many supervisors who have issues with that. So
yeah. It's a very common issue.
But
it's the reality is that, oh my gosh, I don't know where we would be without our volunteers and without an incredibly capable staff.
Yeah. And so that shows, again, it goes back to that whole idea of trusting each other and the mutual respect and the impeccable communication. That's just so important. So
you're exactly right.
Yeah. So that's good that atmosphere is there so that those events can be, delegated out. So
yeah.
Very cool.
Well, and also it's also important to sort of review after the event. What went well. What could we have done better? What did we not expect that happened? And how can we avoid that next time? So I think that's you have to find time to do that. And it's really important to go, I forget what they call it, but just to review the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend or the event or whatever it is.
But I even like how you explain that, because you didn't say what went wrong, you said what could go better, which is still a positive twist to those wordings, because if you just say you did that wrong, that eventually becomes very demeaning. But if you say this is how you can get better, it just has a different, softer tone. You're not harsh, but you're still saying you still got to work, so it's just how you say it,
Right.
What does leadership mean to you, and how can
I lost your
what does leadership mean to you, and how can someone develop their leadership skills?
Leadership to me means, and we touched on this, but setting a good example, lead by example, like we said. I think it starts at the top, and it's really important to be a good example. Motivating. I think it's important to motivate, and that can be done in different ways. But if they feel respected and appreciated, the motivation comes naturally. And encouraging, giving encouragement. These have been tough times, and it's hard to be encouraging some days. But it's really important that we keep a positive attitude and encourage one another. And that's been really, I've so appreciated that with my staff, because we do encourage one another. If I'm having a bad day, they bring me up. If they're having a bad day, I bring them up. And so the encouragement is important. And then again, mutual respect. And, if I respect them, they in turn hopefully will respect me. And I think it's really, it just makes for a much more solid unit.
Yeah. No, that's important. I mean, especially now, like, you do need to have that support network since you're not in the office. There has to be a way that you get each other motivated,
Yeah. Well, and as far as how to be become a good leader, I think one thing that's really important is to find a mentor that you can work with, someone you admire and look up to, and like their style, whether it's their work ethic. I think that can be really beneficial if you have someone that you can reach out to, and just ask open questions and follow their lead, so to speak.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, because you can't do it alone, and I think we already touched on that. You can't, and it's always like you have someone always on top watching over you, and you're watching over someone, and it's just it's constant. It's like a big happy family.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully happy all the time.
Yeah. So I know that you travel a lot, and well, maybe not right now, but you did, and I was just wondering, you also have a family and you're also doing tons of work. So how do you fit in your me time and your R&R and take care of you so you can do what you need to do to make sure things are successful?
Yeah. Well, and I will say, it is my children. I have 2 children and they're both grown and married and away. And that is helpful because this is an intense, especially traveling, that's an intense time because you have schedules to keep and traffic to deal with and flights that are canceled or delayed, and trying to keep your schedule is really challenging. But so I would say the travel piece is probably the most challenging, but it's also the most rewarding. I love being with the alums, and especially when I can go to them and have that face-to-face. I think that just really solidifies our relationships when we can have a face-to-face, a meal together or a chapter event together, or that's really so rewarding to me. And but yes, it can zap my energy for sure. And me time is hard, not as much now because I'm not traveling as much, but my goal is to get outside as much as I possibly can. When Virginia has beautiful weather, and I love the mountains. I love just walking, hiking. So that's my me time. And music is also kind of a good, not escape, but a good outlet for me.
That's good.
So I would say those are the 2 things, just the mountains and outdoors and music. But it is important to carve out some me time, and I always have to work at that.
Awesome. What was one of your most memorable moments?
There are a lot of memorable moments, but I have to say, Dot Braden Bruce, class of 42, was a code girl, back in World War II. And this was a secret up until about 5 years ago. She had told no one. She was a Randolph-Macon alum, and she was married, had a family. No one knew that she was a code girl back in World War II. And finally, it was when anyway, she was then allowed late in life to tell her family. They wrote a wonderful book. Liza Mundy wrote a book on these code girls, and Dot Braden Bruce was one of the main characters in this book.
Oh,
I went to the book signing, okay, in Richmond, probably, well, it's been close to 4 years ago, maybe. And I met this Dot Braden Bruce, and I'll tell you what an inspiration she is. So, and the author was there as well. And so I struck up a friendship with Dot, and that was in October, and probably in October 97 is when it was. I'm sorry, 07.
Oh, so
October 2017 is what I'm trying to say, just 3 years ago. And we invited her to speak at Reunion. And we did the virtual book club leading up to it. So many alums came to Reunion having read the book. It's a wonderful book. I highly recommend it. And we had Dot Braden Bruce there to speak to the audience. And keep in mind, she was 97 at the time.
Oh, wow.
And she brought the house down. We were in Smith Hall Theater, as you well know.
Yeah.
And she everyone fell in love with her, including President Bateman. And we presented her with the Alumni Achievement Award. And that is a memory that I will always be. I'm so thankful that it happened. That we could get her to campus. She was elderly. She turned 98 right after that, and she died within the following year.
Wow.
So our timing, but you talk about positive attitude and energy. That woman, and humor. I didn't mention anything about humor. Humor is so important through all this, and Dot's humor was just captivating. I mean, she was just. So that was a very special memory, and it's actually recorded.
Oh, wow.
When we gave her the Alumni Achievement Award. So I'm thankful that we have that.
That's so, I mean, you know, I always say, like, there's so much you can learn from, the elderly population.
Yes.
They're so wise, like, and they've experienced so much. You just have to take the time to actually step back and talk to them and ask them the questions and be patient enough to do it. But if you do, they're always looking for a friend anyways. So it's like, you just interact with them, and it's just, it's so delightful. I mean, it's just a warm joy, and it's an inspiration,
It really, it was a wonderful experience. And, like I say, we had a friendship. I saw her several times throughout that year. I'd go to Richmond to have lunch with her or whatever. And so much fun. So that would have to be right up there.
That's awesome.
But again, let's say humor. Everyone needs a little humor in their day, and needs to laugh. And that was something Dot just loved to laugh and loved making others laugh.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's what you got to do. You got to bring that energy up somehow, right? And humor is one way, making people laugh.
No question.
My last question for this morning is, who has inspired or continues to inspire you?
Gosh, again, so many people. But I think I would probably have to say my parents, my mom and my dad. My dad died when I was very young. I was 13. And I had 3 brothers, and my mother was remarkable in giving us providing for us when she hadn't worked outside the home until my dad died. And so, but my dad was an amazing, wonderful, he was a minister actually. And he died of cancer, and he had a fairly long battle with cancer. But so, to see him work through that, and to see them as a couple work through that was quite something. But then when he died and my mother became a single parent, she just did everything she could to provide for us. And she loved Randolph-Macon and was so thrilled that I could go there. And but she again, her positive attitude toward life is something that was contagious, and brilliant woman. I wish I had half her memory. But anyway, I would have to say that she and my dear dad inspired and continue to inspire me. Continue.
That's awesome.
With the example that they set.
Yeah, that's a great story. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, everyone who's watched, thank you for joining us. If you would like to be part of the show, send me a message. But Phebe, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule this morning and being part of the show.
It's been so fun, Terica.
Yeah,
thanks for asking me.
Of course, that was my pleasure. Yeah. So stay in touch and good luck with everything.
I will. Good luck to you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.